Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Nerd, a podcast where you can check out, go AFK, and relax with us as we discuss all things nerd. Comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and anything else that gets geeks more worked up than Rocket at a petting zoo.
In this episode, we review and discuss Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But if you haven't seen it yet and don't want spoilers, don't worry, we saved that conversation for the end of the show. Before that, we discuss Fantastic Four and Mortal Kombat 2 casting rumors, weird quotes from Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy and Xbox CEO Phil Spencer, the Star Wars Jedi Survivor video game, a super secret question from Jason, and more. Welcome to episode number 56. I am your dorky DJ Corey Winter, and as always, I am joined by my nerdy brother Josh Winter and our geeky friends Jason Summer and Christian Janey.
Bow!
So we're back to the noises.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right over there, buddy.
Yeah. I had to get it out. It was like building up inside of me.
So we have the whole gang back together after Josh was conspicuously absent last week.
We felt dumber.
We did.
Well,
I think it showed.
Statistically, he's being the minority, the good father.
Oh, yes. That's the minority. Oh, we're getting too real. So how you guys doing?
Good.
Hope you guys had a nice, good, geeky week.
Geeky week?
It was all right.
Geeky week.
Geeky week?
It was all right.
Yeah. I've been furloughed from my job, so I've been done nothing but do that thing.
So you're doing okay.
Smiling through the pain.
All right.
So was this like a furlough that you knew was coming?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So this isn't like a surprise.
No.
Okay.
Not like 2020.
Because there's a lot of that going around too.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, bro, we're good. Don't come back.
That's not even furloughing. That's just people are getting laid off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You may or may not have a job when you come back. But I do. I signed a piece of paper.
Because that makes it. That cements it. Yeah.
That's binding. I have a copy too, so I'll have to have some words.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh.
That's is that comforting enough for you?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I think this is going to be a long episode because we have lots to talk about, specifically Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm going to kick off our Geeking Out section with Guardians of the Galaxy, weirdly enough, because we actually saved that review discussion for the end of the episode. But I've been geeking out on it so hard, I came prepared to this episode with my Guardians of the Galaxy hoodie that my brother got me for, was it Christmas?
Christmas.
I have my Guardians of the Galaxy mug that is full of Bang energy drinks, so I'm all hopped up and ready to go to this episode.
This explains it. Okay.
He's all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
And after we watched the movie, Christian and I went to go see it on Saturday. I built the new Lego Guardians of the Galaxy ship. What's it called?
The Bowie.
The Bowie.
I did not catch
David
that,
Bowie.
actually.
Yeah.
So
I don't think they ever actually said it. Did they?
I thought so.
Christian said they did.
I feel like I've heard it.
But for our video watchers on YouTube, youtube.com/@eatsleepnerd.
The best way to watch.
It's the only way to watch, really.
No, it's
I mean,
I think
but
it's-
that's what makes it the best.
the best way to experience.
There it is. So you can see what I'm holding up on camera. It is the Lego Guardians ship that I built over the weekend.
Nice.
It was super fun. So this goes along with the other one that I built from the first two movies. Or, no, I guess Endgame.
As Jason so accurately pointed
yes.
out.
So
Hashtag Jason. Right?
yes. So this was a fun build that is now going to be sitting with us through this entire episode.
Cool. It's very nice.
So do we
Very
need to get you? Do we need to get you the first ship? Do we need to get you the Milano?
They never made that one.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
They
makes
really
sense.
didn't expect Guardians to be big, did they?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
So
Feels like a gap.
And from this weekend, I feel like this is the best trilogy they got.
yes,
1,000%.
we will
Yeah.
save that for the review discussion. But yes, I wholeheartedly agree. This is the best Marvel has been in a while as far as films go. But we'll save that discussion for the end because we want to save the spoilers for the end of the episode. So
Spoilers.
people that have not watched the movie yet can stick with us for a little bit longer before we get into the
Right.
spoily stuff.
Exactly.
Galactic spoilers.
This bang really is hitting me. Like I'm jittery and everything.
Your eyeballs are your eyeballs are vibrating. So.
My headache's actually gone, so I don't know.
Oh, well, there you
Maybe I had
go.
a caffeine headache.
Yeah, maybe. So that was me this week.
Yep.
I've also played the new Star Wars Jedi Survivor game, but we'll save that little review section for later in the episode as well. I want to know what
Cool.
you guys are geeking out on. So who wants to go first? I think Jason will. You want to go first? Want to do your question now as well?
Yeah, we'll do your question. You want me, and then I can do my geeky stuff later.
I don't know.
I didn't really get to geek over anything. So if we want to do the question instead of the geeking,
okay, we can do that.
Okay.
if we want to do that,
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So
wait,
it's
hold
not
on.
like it's not like a world changing question, but I was not ready for that. No.
We
I was
never
like,
are.
what's going on?
We never know what we're going to do.
Okay. So, what we talk about movies and films and gaming all the time,
Yes. Yes.
but a lot of the movies, a lot of the films, a lot of the games are inspired
Mhm.
by some well-known works of science fiction or fantasy. So, what is your most influential or your most favorite science fiction or fantasy books that you've read?
Ooh.
If we're talking about reading,
Yeah,
Chris is out.
book. Yeah,
oof.
I can allow audiobook, but yeah, but yeah,
It's kind of like listening to a book.
yeah,
Right.
your mom reading to
So-
you for bed.
I will preface this by saying I'm not much of a sci-fi reader. Most of the books I read are more grounded thrillers and action books.
understood.
But it's like the furthest I go into sci-fi novels would actually probably be Hunger Games, which is it's hard to call that sci-fi.
It's
It's a
dystopian.
dystopian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would call it sci-fi.
Okay. So no, to answer your question, I don't really have an answer outside of those books because I haven't read any sci-fi novels. I
Okay.
fall asleep reading sci-fi novels. So,
Okay.
Like what category is the book White Fang under?
You say
Uh,
White Fang?
Wait,
White
Fang,
Fang.
Fang?
fiction.
Fang?
Fiction?
Fang like a teeth?
Fiction.
Is that like in the same realm of your question?
So no. So fiction is the overarching. You're talking about the wolf, White Fang, right?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, no. Science fiction or fantasy fiction.
Mm.
So like fantasy would be like magic and wizards, or I would say even horror to some extent, depending on what it's about. Like Dracula would be like a horror fantasy type thing.
Oh, you know what? Okay. So I didn't finish the book, but I got into it. So when was it? Game of Thrones was a big thing. Like
Fantasy. There you go.
Season 7 was about to come out.
okay.
Everybody was super hyped for it. There was like that 2-year gap, and I was like, I'm going to try to read this book before the next season comes out. Didn't do that, but I got into it, and it was quite a fun read.
Okay.
For what it's worth, no one has finished that series yet.
Boom. All right. Cool. I'm a part of the
Gina,
gang.
right? Because there's it's
Still
not
waiting.
been finished yet.
Yeah.
So Josh has been conspicuously quiet, but he's a big reader. So
I have read words.
what's your answer?
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne.
Really?
Yes.
You
Wow.
pulled it. You pulled a one of the old ones out.
Yeah, and there still has not been an amazing adaptation of that. Certainly not a modern adaptation of that. And it may or may not. Certainly, Jules Verne could get credit for more or less popularizing science fiction. Period. So no, that was one of my first big boy books that I ever read. It was actually part of a collection that my mom bought me. I think it was my mom bought me
Probably.
when I was younger, and it was like a young man's classics
Mhm.
or something like that. And there was a lot of things in there.
Right.
There's like Huckleberry Finn. There was obviously 20,000 Leagues. There was Great Expectations. There was like a few different things in there. And that was one of the first books that wasn't like a children's book that I like plowed through and read cover to cover.
Yeah.
And it was
Cool.
very as far as like credit for him goes, like you got to remember that's early 1800s, and he predicted a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like a submarine wasn't really even a thing yet, and he made an entire story about a submarine, called it a submarine. Like it was very prophetic in a lot was ways. And even the
Or did he just invent the submarine?
maybe and and I mean and it was just it was very so many concepts that if you look back when these things were invented, you realize the story was written before these things were invented.
Yeah.
And like the idea of deep sea diving, scuba diving, those were not things when that book was written, and he wrote about it. Like it was
Right.
cool. So yeah, no, to me, that's probably the most influential one I've ever read.
Before we get Jason's answer to his question, I just want to say my reading background, I went straight from like Boxcar Children and Series of Unfortunate Events straight to Tom Clancy. So
Okay.
there was, and that's kind of where my reading has stayed, is the Tom Clancy realm of things. So I never had that sci-fi genre experience.
All right. Well, just for the heck of it, what's your favorite thriller spy espionage novel that you like?
The entire Jack Ryan series.
Yeah, I was actually probably going to say The Hunt for Red October.
The Hunt for Red October.
It's always a solid one. Some of All Fears is probably up there too.
The Sum of All Fears.
Both solid movies, dude.
Connery's not in this one. Affleck was, though.
Yeah. But anyway.
That's right. That was a good one. Yeah.
He was a good
That was
Jack
a good
Ryan.
movie.
They just didn't make enough money.
Yeah. Jason.
So I would say my favorite, or at least the most influential. Anyway, L. Ron Hubbard's Battlefield Earth.
Mm.
Yeah. You can
It's a
you can
bold
definitely
pick, Cotton.
Isn't that the
Yeah.
Scientology guy?
That is.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, you can see a lot of where the Scientology tenets are played into the book, and of course, L. Ron Hubbard is out there. But this book, it's a really I think it's a well crafted, well written book, and in the very, very horrible movie that we got with John Travolta, it only covers half the book.
Yeah, it was supposed to be part one of a 2-part. Yeah.
Right, because not only do we have to steal the Earth back from the Cyclos, but because of the Cyclos, Earth is now part of a universal economy. And once the Cyclos are put out of business or are removed, the Earth is no longer able to pay for itself. And so the Earth is in danger of being repoed by this galactic universal economy. And so not only does the main character have to figure out how to bring the Earth together as its new leader, but also find a way to make sure that the Earth doesn't go into default and gets taken over by the Universal Galactic Bank or whatever.
That sounds real.
Yeah,
that could happen.
But it was really fascinating. So I could see, like, if they were to redo this and make it like over the course of a season, that'd be a really good way to make this book into a show. But really good story. Just don't take it, make it a religion or anything.
Just read that book.
Yeah.
All right. I hope we didn't disappoint your expectations.
No.
Because
I like it.
I didn't.
yeah, Josh didn't.
Yeah.
I guess.
I knew I wouldn't.
Josh is always on top. It's fine.
Wow. But that's true. No, it's all good. This was good. Okay. I'll think of another one for a while later.
A while later. All right. And then Jason, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores.
I did, yes. So I started playing it finally.
Yeah. 2 weeks
Yeah.
late.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You ain't helping the clicks.
I'm all hopped up on that. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
yes. So anyway, no, it's a really good. So far, I played about 3 hours. I haven't gotten very far because I get distracted by side quests easily. Yeah, so which I've now learned about myself. And what I really wanted to do was just play it through so I could do a review and then go back and do the side quests. No, I didn't do that. I'm like, ooh, squirrel. Ooh, robotic squirrel. Oh, gosh. Okay. Yeah, it'll make sense.
No, I mean, yeah, that does. It
Yeah.
checks out.
But so it's a pretty smooth transition over from the original game. The one thing that I don't like about it is that when the add-on content was added to the first game, it was just another portion of the map.
Yeah.
And you could exit in and out of it and go back to the original map, no problem. Like, it was just part of it. And this one, when you go to Burning Shores, you are now essentially taken to another loaded part of the game, and you can't get back.
Oh,
and so you're not able to go back and do like other quests until this thing is done, unless I'm missing something. That's the one thing I really don't like about it.
well, I was going to say, even if you are missing something, that's not very good user experience if it's not obvious how you do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure how I'm feeling about that. I may be missing something, but I don't think I am. But otherwise, so far it's pretty good. They've taken what I've liked about Horizon, which is just how it looks and how it feels, and they've just continued on that. It's like more of the same, but in a different setting, which is perfect. So far, I'm liking it very much.
Cool. So how do you know how long it takes to actually beat it? Cool.
Don't have a clue.
Cool.
A little more than 3 hours.
So Horizon's one of those franchises that I really want to get back into, because I did play the first game for like probably a good 8 hours, and then I just kind of lost interest because I got a little bit too overwhelmed with all the side quests and stuff. Yeah. It's exactly.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, is that their storylines have been really good. Like, there's plenty of plot twists and espionage, which you would not expect in these types of games, because it's set in a dystopian future and everything's wrecked. But there is intrigue, and there is like spying and stuff like that. It's really neat. So just for the story alone, I recommend them so far.
Yeah. It's one of those good ones.
It sounds fun.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So,
well, Jason, I look forward to hearing your final thoughts once you're done with that.
I look forward to being done.
But in the meantime, do you guys want to get into the nerdy news?
Hit it.
All right, we have no big breaking news stories or anything, but there are some things worth discussing, and we're going to do something we don't usually do. We're going to kick things off with some rumors, but some rumors that have some sources backing them as confirmation. So we have 2 casting rumors that I want to kick things off with. The first one is for Mortal Kombat 2, the sequel to the 2020 movie. Mortal Kombat, was that when it came out?
Didn't
Good
pay
Lord,
attention.
was it that long ago?
2021, sorry. Yeah, it came out 2021. So, Mortal Kombat 2 is closing in on its Johnny Cage. So Johnny Cage was teased at the end of the first Mortal Kombat movie 2 years ago.
The only member of the original team, the original game, that was not in the movie.
Fair enough. So Karl Urban, one of our favorite nerdy actors,
Karl Urban
is in final negotiations to play the iconic game character in the sequel to 2021's Mortal Kombat, a source close to the production confirms. So The Wrap first broke the news, but I actually saw several sources discussing this and confirming it as fact. So if you guys are not familiar with Karl Urban, he is currently starring in Amazon's The Boys as Butcher. But he's also been in a bunch of geeky franchises, such as the most recent Star Trek movies from J.J. Abrams. He was also in Thor Ragnarok. He was in... What else has he been in? Pretty much everything. He was
in the Chronicles of Riddick.
Lord of the Rings.
He was... Dredd, thank you.
That's right.
And he never took his helmet off.
Yeah.
Just like he's supposed to.
This is the way.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the man has pretty much been in every single geeky franchise aside from Star Wars, pretty much.
Wait.
I guess, is he rivaling Henry Cavill?
See, I was going to say, like, we give Henry Cavill props for being like king of the geeks, but let's be real here. Karl Urban's resume is longer.
Yeah.
I would say he's a little more subtle about it. He's not as... It's like he's in his stuff and then he's quiet. Like, you don't hear about him outside of his work.
Maybe that's what it is. He's not a geek, but he does play one on TV.
And maybe he's a geek. We just don't know. But also, he's a really great actor, too, because when you see him on the screen, you don't go, oh, it's Karl Urban. Like, he's actually...
He blends in.
He does
you're more
such
like,
a great job playing characters.
You're more like, is that Karl Urban?
Yeah. Like, if you go watch Dredd right now, you would have no idea that was Karl Urban.
If you didn't know it was Karl Urban.
And see, that's where I'm.
I'm just gonna say
Yeah, that's where I'm falling short on this headline because I've seen him beardless, but as the character of Johnny Cage.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a little left field for me.
Yeah,
But I don't hate it.
I think it's actually perfect. Shave the beard. Actually, no. Picture him in Star Trek as McCoy. Put some glasses on. He's Johnny Cage.
It's like
the nice clean cut hair. Yeah, he's Johnny Cage.
I don't see
he
it.
plays the. I think I've seen him. I don't know which role I'm attributing this to, but he does play the cocky asshole pretty well.
Yes. Especially Butcher and the boys.
Yeah, I think that's
really
that's one that I'm thinking of.
That's another thing. Are they going to make Johnny Cage? Was it New Zealand?
Australian? New Zealand?
Well, he's not actually Australian, is he?
Yeah, he is.
I thought that was just the accent he does for the boys.
Well, technically in the boys, he's English.
Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's Australian in real life. Hold on. This is worth a Google.
Or he might be New Zealandish? From New Zealand?
New Zealander?
He might be.
I feel like I've seen him do interviews and it was just
Let's be real. New Zealand is just the Florida of Australia. So
it's like the skin tag of Australia.
The fact that we're having this discussion
from New Zealand.
Yeah. The fact that we're having this discussion just proves that he's so good at accents we actually don't know what his actual accent is.
it is New Zealand.
Oh.
He's
All
Kiwi.
Christian.
Add a hashtag.
Christian, you were right. But yeah, so
South Australia.
does this make us more excited for? Did you guys? I know Josh and I watched Mortal Kombat together when it came out on HBO. Have Jason and Christian seen it?
I've seen it.
What did you guys think about it?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Josh and I loved it.
Yeah,
it was a
great.
big bowl of meh.
Like it was not like a cinematic masterpiece, but for a Mortal Kombat movie, it was great.
I mean, I just hated the way Kano developed his powers.
Oh, well, I mean, there's always going to be. Yeah.
Like I wish something like
it's one of those-
tragic happened to him.
Well, I think that's an example of over-explaining.
Sure.
Like, it's Mortal Kombat. I don't need to know how these people got their powers.
Yeah.
I don't give two toots. Just get to the fighting.
But the thing, yeah, it could have gone a different way other than just pissing him off.
I mean,
No, I mean, it checks out. Like, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
Yeah, but yeah, it is what it is.
The 90s Mortal Kombat was more memorable to me than the one I watched a couple of years ago. Like I
That's
remember
probably
like
what's mixing me up.
there was something more like there was something specifically where I was just like, that's not sitting right with me, and I can't even remember what it is now. So, I mean, I remember, the 90s one more. Yeah,
maybe just because you grew up with it.
Yep.
no,
Oh well, all right.
because I only saw it one or two times.
Or not.
I wasn't a big fan of that one either.
Oh well, all right. Sorry about it. I liked it.
Yes.
So let's move on to one more casting rumor.
Oh, it's still turning.
It was pretty quiet. So this one's been kind of speculated for a while, but now sources are saying it's a done deal. It has not been officially confirmed by Disney or Marvel yet, but sources are saying Adam Driver has signed on to play Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four film. So Josh is, for other listeners, he is putting his face in his hands. He's not sure.
I believe his shoulders are shaking like he's sobbing. I don't know.
Yes. So this is a little harsh, but when I told our group chat this,
Don't.
No, I can't. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to put Josh on that.
No.
So let's just say
He
Josh,
might be listening.
Josh has feelings about this casting, if it does turn out to be true.
Adam Driver is a fine actor.
I think it's a good choice.
I just
It would all depend on like who his Sue is.
That is also a good point.
you had John Krasinski.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You had John Krasinski.
See, I was never completely on board with John Krasinski either.
I liked the idea of John Krasinski
You had John
if he was
Krasinski.
opposite of his wife
Emily
as
Blunt.
Sue Storm. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
I can take it or leave it. But
Okay.
I don't know. It's I just can't see it. I literally just can't see it. Like it's not even that. Like I don't hate Adam Driver. I like Adam Driver a lot. I just can't see it.
Yeah, because like
It just doesn't
Reed
fit.
Richards is supposed to be like the smartest man in the universe.
Reed Richards is supposed to look like he fell out of 1954.
Adam Driver has the deepest voice known to man.
How does that
I just
correlate
can't. He's
to
not going to be a believable nerd.
I just
He doesn't look like a guy that says actually.
he's supposed to be the smartest man in the universe.
Well,
Jason, thoughts?
so I
need
really
someone
like
to say
Adam.
something positive.
I really like Adam Driver as an actor. Everything that I've seen him in, he's like nailed it.
Yeah.
Even like the weird stuff, like even the Saturday Night Live undercover boss stuff. Like he commits to whatever he's doing, and because of that, it works. It's funny. I'm kind of with Josh though. He's supposed to. I think Reed Richards is supposed to have a certain look, and I don't know how that's going to work with Adam Driver's look. However, he's also melted into his roles pretty well. So I'm interested to see what he's going to do with it.
Yeah.
Like
Also,
I said, I'm not saying it's going to be dumpster fire.
like,
No.
is Reed Richards going to have like coiffed hair?
Right.
See, that's the biggest thing. All I can picture is Kylo Ren hair.
Yeah,
We've not seen the high fade on.
Yeah,
Driver.
I need to picture clean cut Adam Driver,
Right.
and it's just hard to picture. That's just never the look he's ever had. So I don't know. But see, it makes me worry that they're going to take Reed Richards down like a grungy path.
Well,
Just
okay,
don't do
now,
it.
yeah.
And
If
so,
you
like,
want, I know that Adam Driver was a Marine, and I'm sure there are some pictures of him in his military.
there's
haircut.
got to be,
Yeah.
high and tight somewhere.
Yeah.
But still, at the same time, I can't see a Reed Richards with such a cut jaw.
What if it was like Reed Richards, but like kind of with a Nirvana sort of vibe?
All right. So let's move into our next section, our next story. This is a segment that I want to have a recurring thing about because it's something I'm labeling on our agenda as stupid quotes of the week.
Woohoo!
Because there was just a trend when I was going through sources for this episode where multiple people said just stupid things. So the first one is from Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. So she was doing an interview. Who was it with? With Empire. And she was talking about the future of Bond and what she wants to see from it. Or not Bond, from the... I just gave... with spoilers. I just gave away the punchline.
It's okay.
But she was talking about the future of Star Wars and what she wants to see from it. And she was quoted as saying, I've often brought up Bond, i.e. James Bond. That's every 3 to 4 years, and there wasn't a pressure to feel like you had to have a movie every year. I feel like that was very important to Star Wars. We have to eventize this. It's much better to tell the truth that we're going to make these movies when they're ready to be made and release them when they're ready to be released.
Oh, great Odin's Raven!
Every time that comes on, I think Jason's saying it.
That sounds just like Jason.
So no, she's saying she wants Star Wars movies to be more like James Bond level events. And everyone's just calling her out like, Star Wars movies by themselves are already pretty big events, arguably even bigger than James Bond movies. So
I was going to say, don't
yeah.
the James Bond people say, oh man, I wish this was as big as Star Wars?
So like probably the most popular franchise in the world. Why are you comparing it to James Bond?
She has no idea what she's doing. Ever. Like, she was a great producer. She was super good at rounding up the money. Stick with what you know. Because how to run Lucasfilm has not been great for her so far.
Yeah.
But like that, to me, so no, so I mean, this is so frustrating though, because it's like, I love that she's basically saying it's a revolutionary concept that you shouldn't put out a movie if you don't have a movie that's worth putting out. Like, that's a novel concept. Like, guys, what if, hold on. What if we only put out a movie when it's ready instead of just every 2 years?
But how will we make money?
Yeah.
The toys.
No, really. That's the answer. That's why Lucas did it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what keeps it going. So I don't know. That's what I hate more than anything. That to me is what makes it stupid.
Yeah.
It's not that she said it. It's not that she wants to eventize it. It's that she just didn't understand that maybe you shouldn't release a movie that's not good.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
She's the opposite. She's the opposite of Warner Brothers.
So
Warner Brothers cancels crap that may or may not be good.
So one of the benefits of Lucasfilm being sold to Disney was that you had the economic powerhouse of Disney behind the movies, and the talent of effects and everything else that could support the Star Wars franchise. However, it looks like the downside is that it's part of the production, a factory type thing, instead of putting out good material it's putting out good material all the time, rather than putting out more material that's kind of
Yeah.
So and that's what I think Disney has done to Lucasfilms and to Star Wars, and Kathleen Kennedy has been like the driving force behind putting these mediocre products out instead of putting out a quality product whenever it's ready.
And again, like it goes back to we talked about this a few weeks ago. There's a big rumor. I mean, no one will ever confirm it, I don't think, that she's the one who devoted 2 chapters of Book of Boba Fett to The Mandalorian. Her line of thinking, anything that's not The Mandalorian can't possibly be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So like she's just, whatever's working, let's do that, and we'll just stamp out as many of them as we can. Like it's not an assembly line. Like that's not the way it works.
Yeah, I just feel like someone's in that office, like looking at his interviews. Like I told her that weeks ago.
We talked about this in 2010.
Look, Eat Sleep Nerd pointed it out 3 years ago.
They have a whole segment about it.
But guys, can you just imagine the day that Star Wars becomes as big as James Bond? Like, wow.
That'll be the day.
Wow. I think that's actually a step back.
All right. So the next quote that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the video game news of the past couple weeks. There have been some games that launched with some pretty big performance issues. Namely, Star Wars Jedi Survivor has been having an awful launch over on PC. And then that was followed up the very next week with a horrible launch for Redfall, which is an Xbox exclusive first-party game for Xbox. And this was supposed to be like the next big exclusive for Xbox in a landscape where Xbox does not have very many exclusives whatsoever. So ever since they acquired Bethesda and everything, they've been billing, hey, we're going to have those first-party exclusives coming up soon. Redfall was supposed to be that first big one, and everyone was hyped about it. It was supposed to be this big multiplayer game. And it launched last week to horrible reviews. Not really a broken game. It has some performance issues, but people are saying it's just a boring game. Like they're giving it like 2s out of 10s.
It's just not fun.
It's just not fun.
Wow.
So, Xbox's CEO, Phil Spencer, he did some interviews, namely on the Kind of Funny Xcast, their Xbox podcast, where he talked about this rough launch to what was going to be kicking off Xbox's big exclusive release. And he said, when we acquire studios, there are games that are in development, and then there's things that are either really early in development or not even conceived yet. I think we need to improve on engaging with games that are midway through production when they become a part of Xbox. We didn't do a good job early on engaging Arcane Austin, which is the developer of Redfall, to really help them understand what it meant to be part of Xbox and part of first party, and use some of our internal resources to help them move along that journey even faster. We left them to work on the game alone. He went on to say they got in early on the development of Starfield, but Redfall was too far along in development for them to actually make a big difference. But if you do the math, Starfield was announced years before Redfall ever was. And Starfield was actually supposed to come out before Redfall did last year, before it got delayed.
That is one big pile of
So he's saying that somehow, despite Starfield being announced and in development way before Redfall was ever announced, it was somehow less far along in development to where they could help it in development before Redfall. So
basically, it's not our fault.
yeah.
Yeah, threw those dudes under the bus real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, we acquired them and they weren't doing that great. They didn't really talk to us about anything, so
We just kind of left them alone, man.
Let them do their thing.
This
Like,
is what
Starfield's been in
happens
development
when large corporations don't run things. Is that that's what happens.
So
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Having fun over there, Josh.
I have one job on this ship.
So, yeah, not sure what he meant by that.
No, I mean,
Starfield comes out in a couple months.
So here's what's going to happen. He is trying to do multiple things. He's trying to A, say that hey, this wasn't our fault, and B, trying to reassure you that Starfield, I promise, is going to be good. I promise it is. That's basically what he's trying to do. Because the immediate concern is going to be if Microsoft already let out this turd, what's Starfield going to look like? Because like you said, this was the beginning of the big spree of Xbox exclusives.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know, sports. It'd be like the first batter getting hit in the nuts. Like it's just not a good situation to be in.
yeah, or be like Peyton Manning and have like a fumble in the end zone and cause a touchback in the first play of the Super Bowl.
Be like trying to Happy Gilmore a golf ball and just falling on your face.
Jason, you got a reference?
And I was just going to see if these two are going to go back and forth.
or tackling Tom Brady appropriately and then getting flagged for it.
It'd be like if Michael Jordan just didn't show up for the Looney Tunes game.
It's like being asked by the Memphis Grizzlies, never come back under any circumstances.
It's like someone just buying out your contract before you even get on the field.
I think we've kind of lost touch with what you guys are actually referencing.
I was enjoying it.
So anyway, not sure what that means for Starfield, but it comes out in a couple months, so we'll see. One more thing, a stupid quote of the week. It's not really a stupid quote, but it's a weird quote. So, in a earnings call, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav spoke about the power and flexibility of the company's video games profile. More specifically, Zaslav discussed how its wealth of wholly owned intellectual property franchises could encompass all forms of interactive entertainment, from feature-length films to games.
Okay.
So, in a quote, he said, "If you look at Hogwarts Legacy, a big piece of the success of that game is that you go into it. If you're a player, you go into that game and you're in that world. That's kind of a new concept." Not really. Before it was gaming and it was storytelling, and now it's very difficult to understand what the definition of the metaverse is. ... Hold on. When we launch a product on Max or HBO, and when we have a game, that game belongs to us. But there's this in-betweener. It may be in the next couple of years that when we launch a Superman movie, and people spend more time and there's more economics of people that's just hanging out in a Superman world and universe. So, a couple of things to take away here.
First of all, he clearly never plays video games.
Yes.
Yeah. Or he just might have been super high.
Right.
Yes. So this is very clearly a CEO that has never played a game.
Hmm.
But also, people are taking this quote kind of out of context. They're kind of thinking he's hinting at there being a Superman game.
No,
he was just rambling.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of headlines this week saying, "Oh, is David Zaslav hinting at a Superman game?"
No, he's just an old man who's rambling. I'm just saying that we can make video games about the properties that we own, and a movie could come out, and you could be in that game.
Throw a large name trademark around just to bring people in to pay attention.
Yeah.
Superman.
Also, calling that a earnings call was kind of generous. It was a losses call.
Wow.
$1.1 billion.
Wow.
Lost $1 billion. Imagine doing that badly.
That's what you call a max depreciation.
Whoa, get it? Because it's HBO Max.
Imagine
Is there changing
talking
it to
about
max?
Yeah, get it?
Yeah.
Imagine talking about that big of a loss and then hearing that speech. You're like, wow, what are we doing here?
Okay, but what if a game?
So have you heard of
games.
things? They're electronic, and you play them on little boxes that sit on dressers and studios. It's called a video game. Do we do that?
Back in my day, we just had a stick and a wheel.
There wasn't Superman stickball.
But on the topic, do we want to see a Superman game?
A well-made Superman game.
And if so, what genre would it be?
Super
Because I mean, I feel
Super.
like you can't really have an open world game because Superman, like, he can't have limits. Like, you need to be able to fly around the entire world, which is not really feasible for a video game. So
I don't know, man. Unreal Engine 5,
Maybe.
they say that respectively, if you could keep your map size 800 kilometers by 800 kilometers, they'd appreciate it. That's the best way of maximizing performance. So, respectfully disagree.
What
That
if,
limitation is gone.
what if the Superman game takes some liberties and allows you to do something like Fable, where you kind of start off as a kid and you kind of determine how your Superman is going to turn out.
Oh.
And you don't actually, like, so you make decisions that affect the game, and the ultimate, like best win scenario is you become Superman.
Jason.
But you could go all Brightburny.
Exactly.
That's a cool idea.
A little.
And make it hard to actually become Superman. Like, you have to, like, really work at it and really make choices that Clark Kent, Superman, would make in order to become the best version of yourself.
Do it like a Telltale game.
I was going to say Telltale.
Yeah.
Did you ever play those games, the Telltale games?
I am familiar with them.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say, you would really
It's
enjoy
like
the
Life is
Telltale
Strange,
games.
right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah,
kind of
same
stuff.
vibe.
Same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, very
Yeah.
heavy in the storytelling, but not much beyond that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my recommendation. Copyright Jason Summer.
Yeah.
That's
If
a cool
anyone,
idea.
if anyone wants in on this,
That'd be fun.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I like it. So, speaking of Superman comics and stuff, I want to go to one more story before we move on. And I'm mostly throwing this in here because we don't get to talk about just comic book news very often. Because there's really not much to say about comic books. I mean, they just are what they are. But this headline caught my attention. Jim Lee, which we have mentioned a few times in this podcast, the world-renowned artist, writer, editor, and publisher, has been named President, Publisher, and Chief Creative Officer of the DC comic book publisher. So, Jim Lee, a artist and writer that Josh loves,
yeah, I'm a big Jim
is
Lee
now
fan.
in charge of DC Comics. Woo.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm for it.
All right. Yes.
What are we familiar with that he has done? What's some of his work?
Well, I'll
Wow.
let Josh, but I'm just going to read this paragraph because it was right there in front of me. Jim Lee joined DC in 1998 and has overseen many of the company's highly successful publishing programs, including the recent record-breaking Rebirth line of comics and the New 52 initiative that relaunched the entire line of monthly superhero comic books. Josh, take over.
Some of his most famous ones, my personal favorite is probably Batman Hush. He did that entire run, which they later repackaged as a graphic novel. And then he eventually got so big, pretty much almost right after that he kind of became like Alex Ross, where he was so good and so expensive that really you just hired him to do the cover, and then someone else did the book. So a lot of really iconic one frames you can find out are Jim Lee. Like the one that always comes to my mind is the one with Batman standing on the rooftop with his chest out and the cape is behind him and he's just looking off into the side. That's Jim Lee. Jim Lee did that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like I said, he got so prolific that you're probably more familiar with his covers than you are with his actual comic runs.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah,
So
more
he has-
importantly, yeah, go ahead.
He has credentials for this
Yeah,
position.
yeah, and that's
yeah.
and that's what I was going to say. He's been doing this for a very long time. He very much loves DC, and so that's a good sign. I think that was a wise choice.
I feel like he's also one of the few people that has kind of touched every aspect of creating a comic book. Like, he's
Also
written
true.
stuff.
Yeah.
He's He's drawn stuff. He's done everything. So I think this is a good move. Like you want someone in charge that has experience in all aspects of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good fit.
Fun fact, Zack Snyder, who is notorious for when he writes his scripts, he storyboards the entire movie himself. He doesn't just storyboard it. He basically does it like a comic. When it came time to do what was supposed to be the Justice League trilogy, instead of doing it himself, he hired Jim Lee to do all the storyboards. And you can actually Google them and see a lot of the images from it. And they got this warehouse, and it was just whiteboard after whiteboard after whiteboard. And he just storyboarded the entire trilogy.
Wow.
That way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want one of
So-
those.
See, that's how you do a trilogy. You map out the freaking story. Star Wars.
What's the story? There's 3 of them.
And then,
Like characters.
And-
Yeah, sure. But also movies.
And then
Well, this will kind of come back around when we go into our Guardians thing. But since you guys are bringing it up now, James Gunn did a little Q&A after the Guardians Volume 3 movie came out this weekend. And people are asking him, did you have this story in mind when you made the first movie? He was like, yeah, I had the entire 3-movie storyline for Rocket and everybody planned out before I even made the first movie. So that's how the story's actually
Huh.
Yeah.
See,
Wow.
I don't. To me, this is like story writing 101. Have your story in place.
Yeah.
They clearly didn't have that with.
So this week
Anyway.
we've learned that you should have a story before you write something, and that maybe wait until the movie's ready to put it out. Feels
Why
like
didn't
things you would
anybody
learn
think
on
of this
day
before?
one. But
Nobody thought about this before.
yeah,
Apparently
this,
not.
This is revolutionary.
This is like ancient technology or alien technology. There we go.
This is the Sun Tzu of filmmaking.
The art
So
of crap.
basic, you have to be taught it.
You know, the art of war. Never mind.
All right, so I want to talk about the new Star Wars Jedi Survivor video game. I did first impressions on the last episode number 55, but in this episode, I want to talk about an actual review of this game. So the original plan was for the entire team to play this game and review it, but that kind of fell through. But I went through with it, so I don't want to do a half-hour long review like I have in the past with my video games. I want to do like a quick fire review of this game.
You have 30 seconds.
So, Jedi Survivor. It was the sequel to the Jedi Fallen Order video game that came out a few years ago. And what's working so well for this game is that it takes everything from that first game and just expands on it. Like, it didn't take anything away. It didn't add a lot of new stuff, but it improved on the fundamentals that made the first game so good. So the same idea with the open world exploration, the combat, the storytelling, the customization, all that stuff is still in place. It's just there's more of it and it's more refined. Like one of the big cons of the first game was that, and one of my big cons with the first game is that it was this big open world game, and like a big core aspect of it was you had to find the right path to get from point A to point B. You know,
I was going to say, it wasn't really open world.
yeah, it was.
It had the illusion
Yeah.
of being open world.
And, you know, to get from point A to point B, it was a big windy path. But once you got to point B, there was no fast track way back to point A. Like, there was no fast travel.
Unless it was part of the level design.
Correct. But in this game, they actually introduced fast travel. So just little like quality of life improvements that just enhance things for the sequel.
Is it more open worldy?
Yes. Which is actually kind of a con for me.
Or is it an illusion?
It's not an illusion. So it is like the planets and everything are very big open things. And there are multiple things. Like obviously you can just go straight through the story checkpoints and stuff, but you can also go on the side paths and stuff and explore other hidden areas and things. So it is a lot more open. But the con about that is that they focus so much of the world on these like 3 planets. But for Star Wars, that kind of feels suffocating because Star Wars is meant to be this big, huge universe. And so when you have this open world feeling game, only being able to go onto 3 planets feels kind of like, why can I not go onto more?
Yeah.
So like the story.
I would actually argue that's super Star Warsy.
Right. I was thinking the same thing, honestly.
Coruscant and Tatooine.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
It's like I got about
Indoor.
halfway into the game, so about 10 hours when I realized that's what was going to happen, is that you go do a mission on one planet, you go explore this new area you haven't explored yet, and then that takes you back to this other planet. You go and explore this new area on that planet, and then that takes you back to the planet you were just on. It's like you're really hopscotching. Is that the game? You're just bouncing back and forth between one and two. Ping-ponging.
Yeah.
It's like I kept expecting there to be a new planet to explore, but it's really just 3. So that was kind of disappointing. But that said, there's a lot to explore, which is actually a big aspect of this game I did not really realize, because as I've mentioned on this podcast before, the first game I was not a huge fan of, because I didn't know going into it what kind of game it was going to be. So I did not realize it was going to be that big open world type of game where it's more
Linear.
Uncharted with lightsabers. I didn't realize it was going to be so heavy on the parkour environment traversal like it actually is. So that kind of took me out of it. But in this game, I was expecting that, and I actually really liked it, because Josh actually mentioned a few episodes ago the Uncharted thing. I never really connected the dots that it was kind of just Uncharted with lightsabers. So when I realized that, I was like, oh, yeah, that's actually a very good point, because I love Uncharted, my favorite franchise of all time. So putting a Star Wars feel onto that made it a lot more fun for me. And so I realized that like 65% of this game really is just the experience of finding how you get from point A to point B. Like the traversal of the environment is like a huge aspect of the game. Like it's kind of a puzzle game in disguise. It's like you have to find the most creative way to get up a mountain or through this area with enemies. Like you have to figure out which walls to climb or which zip lines to explore, or all that stuff. So like it's very heavy on just finding how to get from one place to the next. And then the next like 45% of the game, that's not the right math, 35% of the game,
it's 110% of the game,
is the lightsaber combat and using the Force. And that is just excellent. And so I mentioned on the last episode where I did my first impressions, this game makes you feel like a Jedi. And that, having finished the game now, that is so true. Like the lightsaber combat feels so natural and organic. Using the Force feels so great. Yes.
Did they fix parrying with a lightsaber? Because I don't think I parried correctly once the entire time I played the first game.
So, yes. And I will say I did not play this on the hardest difficulty.
Welcome to dad mode,
and
bro.
So the difficulties change the timing of the parrying. So on the harder difficulties, you have to parry like perfectly, but on the lower settings,
a little more forgiving.
You have a little bit more forgiveness.
That's what I was about to say. I feel like it'd have to do with the difficulty of the game.
All right. So for those at home who just haven't reached this point in your life yet, as soon as the first digit in your age turns to 3, you start playing games on easy.
Yeah.
Just because real life is way too stressful for me to stress out about the game that I'm playing to relax.
And so I will say that's actually kind of where I fell off of the first game. Was I got to one boss battle with, I think it was an Inquisitor, and I could not beat it despite trying for several hours, and I refused to dump down the difficulty setting.
Do it.
And I couldn't get
Dumb it down.
I couldn't get the parrying correct, so I just gave up.
Yep, just do it.
I just gave up.
Just there's no shame in it.
So in this game, I was playing on one of the lower settings, and I didn't have any issue. But that's where the combat is so great, is that because you're a Jedi using a lightsaber to do these battles, parrying is actually a big part of it, because like you're having to block attacks as an offensive strategy.
Right.
So
you won't get in there if you don't parry the attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up, since I knew how to do it this time, I loved the parrying aspect of it. I loved kind of going back to actually Forspoken randomly.
Forspake.
That review I did a few episodes ago, where I loved how you could mix in the combination of like magic and weapon use and like parkour and stuff to actually do the boss battles. That came back around in this game, where using your lightsaber, all the different ways you can use your lightsaber, in addition to using the Force, but also like jumping off of walls and stuff, all of the random combinations you can do is so much fun to actually defeat the bosses and stuff. So you can hop over people, you can throw people up in the air and like slam them back down, and then throw a lightsaber at them. You can use the force to like force pull a bunch of enemies together, and then like slice them through. And like, speaking of which, they actually increased the level of graphicness in this game, so you can actually chop off limbs and stuff.
Ah, yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Oh.
The old dismemberment.
Yes. So that was a lot of fun. And speaking of combat, since we're on that topic, there's different stances you can use. So there's 5 different stances, and by that it's
One is just called the high ground.
no, it's the lightsaber combination you can use. So you can have 2 stances to choose from at any time. Then you can actually change out which combination you have at any given time by going to like a meditation point. But
So you can like equip stances?
yes,
Is that kind of what okay.
yes, and there's 2 you can choose from
Of the 5.
out of the 5.
Okay.
So there is the single blade, the single lightsaber. There is the double blade, so like Darth Maul levels of lightsabering.
Okay.
You have the dual wielding, so think General Grievous.
Ahsoka.
You have the color Ren type of lightsaber, the cross guard,
Neat.
and then you have the final stance, which is lightsaber in one hand, pistol in the other one.
Ah.
And all these stances have different combat styles. So like the crossblade, you swing a lot slower, but you have more power behind it.
Sure.
Nice.
It's like a claymore.
Yes. You get to customize the way you fight enemies, which is really fun. So like I ended up using the double blade a lot. I didn't like the cross guard. It felt too slow to me, but I loved using the double blade. But a lot of people end up liking the cross guard. So it's just personal preference comes really handy in this game. And you have so many different options. Same with customization. It's like you can customize the look of your lightsaber all the way down to like the little itty bitty details, like the little trigger button you can customize. You can customize the blade color. You can have all the different colors. You can have orange lightsabers, purple lightsabers. You can have all of them.
What color was your lightsaber?
Mine was green.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
You would be.
You look like a green.
You can customize all of your clothes. So just typical clothes customization. You can even customize your hair in this game, which I don't think you could do in the first game. So like you could actually have a goatee or a mustache or a mullet.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of yeehaw Cal Kestis.
Yeah.
On the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking
Lots
at
of mullets and handlebar mustaches. And,
I was looking at this photo. And I was like, why does it look like Rick Grimes holding a lightsaber?
Yeah. So that just the way you can customize it to be the Jedi that you would want to be is really fun. So it is like next to like parallel to being a Jedi simulator. Like you're already playing a specific character, but you can play the character the way you want to play the character. And then the story is it was a little underwhelming to me. Like it is a great story, but I didn't really take anything away from it because it kind of deals with Cal Kestis, the main character you play as, in the aftermath of the first game, which is in the aftermath of Order 66, where he's dealing with
aftermath.
Yes, it's dealing with the fall of the Jedi Order, and he's like one of the surviving Jedi, and he is kind of in this game kind of taking revenge on the Empires. Like he's yes, so yeah, he's going after like the Inquisitors and stuff like that, trying to like regain the Jedi Order. And you know, it's just the where the story went was kind of just I didn't really care too much. Like it wasn't bad, and I'm sure a lot of people liked it, but it's just it was kind of whatever. But I will say by the time it was over, like the third act of it really picked up. Like I was like, ooh, this is great. And we had some big characters make some cameos at the end, and not even cameos, like pretty significant appearances in this game, like you did in the first game as well. But there were also big set pieces that were just great additions to the game. So one of the things I love in video games, specifically franchises like Uncharted, are the big action set pieces like that are very cinematic and just like tell this intricate story action set piece where just things go haywire. There was one mission or one level in this game, whatever you want to call it, where it was one of the best action set pieces I have ever played in video games. Like you were passing through like these portals and like flying through the air, but like using the force to like defeat enemies. And it lasted for like a good 10 minutes too. It was so much fun. So I that was one of the best moments I've ever had in video games. It was so great. And that was just all over the game. Like there was just these little set pieces all throughout the game that were just perfectly orchestrated, perfectly built, and it just felt so great. And by the end of it, the story got so intricate that I started tearing up a little bit when I saw what was happening. So it's not often video games make me tear up a little bit. So this one was a great way to end things, and definitely there is going to be a third game to kind of wrap things up. So all that to say,
3 out of 5.
Great game. I will note, Josh was mentioning that he got it on PC, but he's not played it yet because PC is having some horrible performance issues.
Horrendous.
Like it's
and mine might actually not be that bad because apparently it affects new graphics cards more than the older ones. So I had like a kick-ass graphics card from like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I might actually be okay. I may try to play it this week.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So yeah, it's some people have had issues on console as well. I have not. I had one crash like 2 hours into it, and aside from that, not a single issue.
One crash in a whole game.
Yeah,
It's
like a
not bad.
20-hour game, one crash, not bad.
Forgivable.
But on PC, apparently that's not been the experience. So this review is specifically about the PlayStation 5 version. So all of that to say, this is probably the second best Star Wars game of all time. Second only to Knights of the Old Republic.
Whoa. Bold claim.
And personally, this is probably my second favorite game, the second favorite Star Wars game of all time. Second only to Star Wars Galaxies.
Oh, I was expecting you to say Pod Racer.
That was a great game. And I will say, compared to Star Wars Galaxies, I just don't think anything's ever going to measure up to Star Wars Galaxies. Like, that was just a great role-playing Star Wars set game. I really want something like that again. But anyway, that's beside the point. I love this game. I'm giving it 5 out of 5.
Wow. Okay.
Highly recommend.
Wow.
Highly recommend.
Wow.
All right, let's get into our spoiler review section, where we are talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Tres.
And I emphasize the spoilies because some significant things happen in this movie that we will definitely be talking about.
It'll ruin your whole experience.
Spoilers. Eventually, we're going to have little flashing lights in here just to emphasize the level of
for now, we're
spoilies.
spinning our hands.
Yeah,
around.
we're just-
It's
Corey,
these are
your
the
hands
signs.
are on one today. You use your hand a lot, but you're like, ah!
So, this movie, I have been hyping for years now because we've known for a while that this was going to be the end of the journey for the Guardians crew as we know it.
Since 2017.
It's the end of the Guardians.
As we know it.
And as we discussed in the last segment, very quickly, that James Gunn has said that this story tells the entire story that he set up all the way back in the first movie. So this is very much a trilogy with a through line all the way from the beginning, because he confirmed that Rocket was this trilogy's main character, and that was very obvious in this movie.
He even said it point blank in the movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a metaphor. They said it explicitly.
He was the main character.
But you always had main character energy.
He did.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So before we get into all the story beats and talk about details and everything that happened, I just want to get general vibes from everybody.
I cried in public.
Yeah, I threw up my hands a couple of times in this movie. Like, are you serious? Like, are we doing this? James Gunn, we're going to have a talk.
Old Jimmy G.
That was, as the kids say, emotional damage.
Christian got traumatized.
So, being the Guardians fanboy that I am,
Did you cry in public?
I cried all through this movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, it started out with me weeping. It ended with me weeping. There was some weeping in between.
Like, it wasn't even all sad tears either. Like, there was happy tears too, which doesn't happen very much in movies. So I will say, this is a bold statement, but I think at least you guys will partially agree, if not fully agree, this was the perfect, maybe comic book movie, at least just superhero movie, or at least Marvel movie, in the sense that it had a fully developed story. It had great action scenes. It had perfectly timed comedic scenes. It had the emotional beats. It had the dramatic beats. It had everything. It had a story that's been arcing since 3 movies ago. It's had developers that have had huge development. Did I say developers that have had huge development?
Yeah.
Yep.
Characters that have had huge development, like Nebula specifically.
Developers that have had huge characters.
Nebula specifically has had a huge character development since we first saw her. We had the satisfying but unexpected conclusions to some of these character arcs. We had promises of things to come, but also closing the door on some things. So, like, I think this really, like, and then the bad guy, a very intimidating, great bad guy.
I want you to take a minute and think about his name.
The High Revolutionary?
No, his real name, the actor's
I
name.
can't say it.
Yeah.
The high.
I want you to try to say his name.
Nope.
Jason's got it.
Yeah.
My phone is my camera right now. I got nothing.
So Chukwudi Iwuji?
Sure.
That's pretty good.
But anyway, so it hit all the marks for me. This was maybe not a perfect cinematic masterpiece, but a perfect movie for what I was wanting from it.
I actually would call it a cinematic masterpiece.
And
I'm prepared to call it that.
And it really drove home the point that James Gunn made a few weeks ago, where he was answering a question about superhero movie fatigue. Someone asked him, hey, superhero movies are not getting as high as the box office as they have in the past. So he was asked, is there superhero fatigue? And he was like, I don't think there's superhero fatigue. I just think studios need to refocus on telling a good story. And he took that and displayed that in full. Like, he told a well thought out story, and it worked so well.
Yeah. I was about to say, because Quill's story just by itself was heart wrenching.
Yes, and
It also kind of wrapped up in the last installment, though.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't too many places to take that.
he took it somewhere.
Yeah.
And like I was gonna say, like throughout the third movie, like he was sort of comical about Gamora, but as you really look at it, it was just like that deep pain, because that's especially how the movie starts with him. And I was like, that's like you said, or I guess James Gunn said that if it's as long as there's a good story to it, I don't care about anything else.
Yeah. Stop making superhero movies just to make a superhero movie. Tell a good story.
Well, see, and that's exactly what has happened with Marvel and I think that's why we've all kind of gotten over it. They got more into their own universe than they did into telling a story. Like, you can show me the coolest universe in the world, but if there isn't a story there, I really have no connection. I don't care.
Yeah.
So, like, you can have, I was trying to think of how I wanted to put this on my drive over here. And it was, Marvel has become very situation based.
Yes.
But you can have a situation and not have a story.
Yeah.
It's actually really easy to do. That's what most sitcoms are based on. That's
Basically skits.
Yeah,
Tied together
yeah.
that's
loosely.
the sit of the sitcom is situation. And so, like, that's neat for very short episodic little bursts. It doesn't work for long form storytelling. And the MCU built this entire premise around long form. This is 32 movies of long form. But it became very situation based. Like, that's one of the things I'm worried about with the upcoming Marvels. Is it looks mildly entertaining, but is it just a situation? They're just swapping powers and they just have to figure out why.
Yeah.
Like, that's neat and it could be funny. I don't care.
Yeah, that's what I'm
This-
hoping. Like
yeah.
it's like something that is brought up to get us to a story.
Yeah. This, on the other hand, old Jimmy G ignored all of that. He didn't. This movie is not connected in any way to any other part of the MCU.
Mhm.
They don't even mention another superhero. They don't pretend they need to mention another superhero.
Mhm.
They don't really reference anything that happened before unless it related directly to the story. Like we talked about Gamora a lot and what happened with Gamora, but you had to because it's important to what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And like we said, there was an actual story. If you removed all of the emotional connection about Rocket and his past, which makes up at least a third of the movie's runtime, you wouldn't really have cared as much about the movie. Like, he had an actual story that he wanted to tell and then told it. Even the end credits, the teasers and stuff, didn't connect to anything else. Didn't tie into anything else. And this was the best MCU movie we've had since Endgame.
Yeah.
Like, without question.
So we're talking as
initial
a
thoughts.
whole. Yeah, I was going to say, Jason, you haven't said much. So I want to see if you're agreeing with all this.
Yeah. So first off,
2 out of 5.
I was impressed by how well. What?
2.7.
I was like 2 out of 5.
I was impressed at how well the teaser trailers misdirected us.
Yes.
1000%.
So
Oh.
yeah. So the I was expecting a much darker, much more grim movie with more grim conclusions.
Yes.
And every sometimes I wondered through the movie if they were certain scenes were put in the movie so that he could put them in the trailer to misdirect us.
Yeah.
Which was fine because I was like, okay, all right, I'll give you that. That's pretty cool.
Because it got me. Yeah.
Yeah, that man is a magician.
What?
That man is a magician.
Yeah, he did well on that. I walked out of the movie with 2 thoughts. One was this was the best movie we've had in, what are we in, phase 4, phase 5?
4.
5.
4.
5 now?
Five.
Yeah.
Five, yeah,
The best.
five.
This is the most solid movie we've had since Endgame.
Yep.
And if he can make me feel this way about the new Superman movie,
Yeah.
That's
We're gonna
what I
be
was
fine.
thinking. Yeah.
those are my 2 thoughts leaving the movie. So those are my initial thoughts for this movie.
Good. So,
Good.
Corey approves.
as we
You
watch
can stay.
movies, I don't know if you guys even know this. I take notes as I'm watching things. So in the theater while watching this, I was taking bullet point notes of things I wanted to talk about, and this was a long one. So since you brought up the trailer misdirection, let's just start there. So there were 2 scenes specifically in the trailers for this movie.
Again, spoiler alert.
Yes.
Just in case you haven't gotten it yet.
But again, just so we're clear, we've talked a few times about scenes in trailers not being in movies. That's not what's going on here.
Oh, yeah.
They were
Correct.
portrayed in certain ways in the trailer that were intentionally meant to misdirect, and I thought that was
Yeah.
really clever.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So the first one that was actually pretty early in the movie was the scene that was pretty iconic in the trailer where Nebula is carrying the body of Quill.
Right.
And that made it look like in the trailer that
Quill
was the end of Quill. But
Yeah.
no, that was actually just the very beginning of the movie
That's
where
the opening scene.
Yeah.
Quill gets drunk and she's just carrying him to bed.
Fun fact. Did you know?
That was a fake body.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
a prop. That
It
was
looks
not
real.
Yeah, there was no wires or anything like that. It weighed 35 pounds. She was able to carry it all by herself. And that's why it looks so good.
Okay.
And the second scene was actually the one that I pointed out in our trailer reactions that we did on this podcast a few episodes ago, where there was that very quick shot of Quill like breaking down crying.
Yes.
And I speculated that it was him crying over the dead body of Rocket, which
Is accurate.
is accurate. However, in
Spoiler.
the movie, Rocket then came back to life. So, yeah. So the trailer painted a not inaccurate.
It was very grimdark portrayal.
Bleak.
Yeah.
Bleak.
They didn't
Yeah.
they didn't tell you what to think.
No.
They just showed you little
Sure.
snippets and let you come to your own conclusion, knowing that you were going to assume everyone was dying.
Yeah.
Which would have worked. I mean, we knew it was the final movie, so everything was game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very much, and Jason will be with me on this one. It was very reminiscent of the last episode of Picard. I was emotionally prepared to lose these characters.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
long as it made sense and it was worthwhile. Again, we know this is the last chapter.
Right.
As long as they went out well, I was ready for it. And instead, just like in Picard, everybody lived.
Mhm.
We got to keep everybody. And it didn't feel like a cheat either.
No.
Because that can be equally heartbreaking a little bit. Like
right. Like, if
you don't want them to feel you don't want it to feel unearned that they got to live.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker.
But you get what I mean though? Like it's if they hadn't done as good a job with the story, I'd feel ripped off that Rocket came back.
Yeah.
Like that would have felt cheap. Oh, you just want to have him later on for a sequel if you need him, Like it could have felt equally unrewarding.
Yeah.
But no, I was completely emotionally satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just going through my list, just the overarching thing in this movie, just the big story is that we're dealing with Rocket's origin. And so a lot of the movie deals in flashbacks where we see how Rocket became the super genius animal that he is. And so there's been like that overarching hinted at story throughout all these movies that he had a dark past. He didn't want to talk about it. It's what made him so angry. And they teased this in the past movies where you saw his scars in his back. So like you knew there was some kind of torture that happened at some point to make him who he is. We finally got that backstory in this movie. And that was actually the big plot of this movie, is that the high evolutionary created him. And he, when Rocket was born, he was just a regular planet Earth raccoon. And he was turned into this what he would call a monster, a super smart monster. But he was a monster, a animal that could talk and could do things like a human could. And so right off the bat, this movie opens with a really dark scene where we see him in the cage and like the hand is reaching for him. And like, that's going to
the cutest little CG Rocket you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah. So it just opening up the movie so dark, and that just kind of recurs throughout the movie where it
never gets better.
It really does deal with animal torture. And so like I saw like IGN like warning, hey, if you have a problem with animal cruelty, you might have a hard time watching this. And I kind of thought that was ridiculous. But then I saw the movie and I totally get it.
And
it was hard to watch.
On top of that too, people have talked about that scene specifically when he's reaching in to get him, is that psychologically, there we go. We were just helping each other all day. Psychologically, like when you're approaching an animal, you always want to have your palm up.
Yeah. It's non-threatening.
But right off the bat, you can see that he has zero intentions on like caring for him. Yeah. So you see him just straight to grab for him. And also another thing that some people pointed out is that all the other ones scurried away, but you see Rocket right up front. And you're like, oh, he's going to be a badass later. Mm-hmm. Obviously, because he's the one that's going to stand up for the rest of this group.
Yeah.
He was special before anything happened to him.
Yeah. But yeah, it was hard to watch at times. Especially even the stuff that was not explicitly shown, but it was hinted at.
Implied.
Or heard.
Yeah. Implied violence.
Yeah.
It was hard. And that's what made me cry so much in this movie, because just being the dog dad that I am, and like having such strong feelings about this creature, this animal, I was relating so hard to this movie. Like, oh my God, I cannot imagine if that little raccoon was Danny and how I would be feeling about everything happening to him. It's like, it was really hard to watch at times. Like I was sitting next to Christian during this movie, and I was just like, "Oh my God, Christian, don't look over here. I'm broken. Don't look over here." So
crying in public.
I mean, I was doing my own thing.
So yeah, at times this was a very heavy movie, and I say at times for the most of this movie,
bulk of the movie is pretty
heavy.
Well, but yeah, I mean, you're dealing not only with animal cruelty.
Yeah.
You're dealing with some severe emotional trauma, whether it be from relationships, whether it be from PTSD. And then, of course, you've got this supremely arrogant villain with a god complex.
Completely irredeemable.
Right, yeah, there's no redeeming this guy. And he thinks he's absolutely right, which makes him even worse.
But that's what makes such a good bad guy, though.
Yeah. So... yeah, there's a lot of there was a lot of well written concepts put into this movie, which made it a good movie.
Yeah, and as you were saying, the PTSD part of it, like this was not just an emotional storyline for Rocket's backstory. It was also for Star-Lord as well, because he's still dealing with the aftermath of Gamora.
Well, for everybody. This was wrapping up everybody's trauma.
Yeah.
Like there was not a single unbroken person, and they even discussed that. Like this is not like subtext. You can go deep with it if you want to, but like they had entire conversations about it. No one here is okay.
Yeah. Like Drax, there was a Drax arc, which I did not expect.
Yeah.
But Drax got an arc. I was like,
I was expecting that one just because from the comics, everything, I knew his backstory. But yes, Drax, his backstory is that Thanos killed his family, which is what turned Drax into
the Destroyer.
Right.
He was
that's addressed in the other movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I kind of figured that his backstory being a broken father was going to come back around, which it did.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like you were saying, everybody, aside from maybe Groot, has a pretty emotional arc in this movie.
Groot had enough of a journey where he gets to say something other than "I am Groot."
True.
There was a theory about that too.
Or what's your theory?
He didn't really say that.
What's your question? What's your theory?
Yeah. The guys is kind of saying he didn't really say it. It's that the underlying thing about it is that throughout the movies, you're not really understanding what he's saying, but everybody else understands what he's saying. And then kind of like Gamora, the whole movie, she's like, how do you understand what he's saying? And so since we've been on that journey with them through the whole thing, now we, as the audience, can understand Groot.
Okay.
Quote unquote.
That's what I was thinking before.
And I like that a lot better.
Yeah.
I find that more rewarding than he just learned to talk.
Right. Yeah. Well, but that takes away Groot's arc.
But then again, I wish he would have said, now we're family.
Jeez.
And then Groot looks at the camera and says, "Watch Fast X."
Like grows a chain out of his neck.
All right, so hitting some more points. Cosmo. We finally got a pretty in-depth appearance from Cosmo the dog.
Yes.
Cosmo the bad dog.
Not right.
I thought that was
dog.
the funniest thing. Just the reoccurring. I guess in this case, she. Traditionally a boy dog, but in this movie, a girl dog.
Yeah.
A bad dog in this movie. I love that kept coming up. Like it was just.
No, she's a good dog.
Tell me I'm a good dog. Say it.
I know I'm a good dog.
I thought that was great. I thought Cosmo, and it wasn't just a character there for laughs. Like towards the end of the movie, Cosmo actually played a pretty significant role, helping people get off the ship.
Yeah,
using her powers.
Taking that hit. Yeah.
Right? That little pancake thing?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That was gruesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. They pushed this PG-13 as hard as they could.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were like, where's the line? We have our fingernails over this line.
Yeah.
And I had heard articles about somebody about Chris Pratt getting to drop the F-bomb.
Yeah, the first F-bomb in the MCU.
Funny as heck.
It was hilarious.
It was hilarious.
I'm sure James Gunn was just like, meme that. When you say it.
Hey, look, bud. We may only get to do this one time. You got to earn this. Tom Hanks comes out of nowhere. Earn this. And that's it.
And that's going back to my point. Like that just illustrates like the comedy in this movie was so well balanced with the darkness. It was so perfectly timed as well, which made it so much more effective. Like the scene where they're on, what did they call that planet? Not New Earth.
Counter-Earth.
Counter-Earth. When they first get to that planet and they go inside and sit down at that person's dinner table. That entire scene where they're just bickering with each other that entire time.
Hilarious.
Like the quips like back and forth was just so perfectly timed. And then it ends up with them in the car and like Star-Lord drops that F-bomb just perfectly.
Yeah.
Just the comedy was so well written and so well executed.
It just shows you the well-established family that they are.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm going to start acting like Drax and start just laying down on everybody's couches.
Just zero situational awareness.
Yeah. And just comparing it to another MCU movie, this comedy is so much better in stark contrast to Love and Thunder.
We're gonna keep bringing that back up because that was just
Like
because it's worth talking about.
Like that comedy was, compared to this, just toilet humor compared to the comedy in this movie.
And it was just it was poorly timed. It didn't land.
Yeah.
Like it was just the only funny part of that movie was Russell Crowe.
yeah.
The characters were not the punchlines, and that's
Exactly.
the difference.
Correct. Yeah, they did funny things,
Right.
But you weren't laughing at them.
Because they were competent, serious characters.
Yes,
Like, yeah.
unlike Thor
Yeah,
and
thinking about
everyone
it-
in his movie.
Thinking about what took me out of that movie was when he sees Jane for the first time. He goes, Jane, and the building falls down. I was like, that is cartoon humor.
Yeah.
And it didn't work at all.
He even sounds like Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
One more funny scene that I have written down here that I want to talk about, when they put on those like colorful suits,
Yes.
and they're like flying through the space and land on the whatever that was,
The intercom or the
intercom
walkie-talkie
scene
or whatever. Yeah.
where like he has to like, push the card
Yes.
button to like talk to Gamora, and he
Oh,
thinks
yeah.
he's doing it in private, and like they're arguing about what the color code actually means.
we can all hear you.
yeah, like I thought
That was funny.
and like Drask goes, it seems intuitive. Like,
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah.
I just
But
go ahead.
no, you go.
I was just gonna reiterate, like it just
It landed.
just the back and forth banter
Yeah.
made this movie. But anyway, what were you
And
saying?
jumping off from that, though, leading into the next part, Nathan frickin' Fillion.
Yes, that's my
Actually
next point.
getting to look like Nathan Fillion for once.
Yeah,
Right.
seriously.
Yeah.
And so he's playing the rookie in space.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very similar vibes.
He was a security officer, essentially.
So what's funny about that is I actually watch The Rookie as it comes out every week on television.
You would.
I love this show so much, and on this recent episode, actually the season finale of season, I guess 5 now, that came out last week before this movie hit theaters. In the opening scene where you first see Nathan in this episode, he was wearing a Guardians of the Galaxy T-shirt.
Nice.
Like it was just
Wow,
a nice
that's
little
awesome.
quick
Yeah.
thing. I thought that was funny.
Nice.
But yeah, Nathan Fillion, I was expecting him when I found out he was in this movie, I thought just a very quick cameo. He was
Well,
actually in a pretty significantly.
I was gonna say I was expecting just another role where you didn't know it was him.
Yeah.
You know, like it's for those who don't know, he was the big blue alien that harasses them at prison in the first one, where
Right.
Groot puts his fingers up his nose or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he was the voice of someone in the second one. Point is, you never see him.
Mhm.
You never get to see Nathan Fillion. And I think that was kind of the running joke, is that we got someone who's very well known in the geek world. You're never going to get to see him.
Yeah.
But we got to in this movie. And he was very Nathan Fillion-y.
Right.
which was
Very-
great.
Yes. that is not a bad thing.
No, he's funny. He was funny, and
Yeah.
yes, it was
And
good
the
to
other-
see.
And the other list of like celebrity pop-ups and the, I guess
just popping
the
in and
third
out.
part of this movie.
Yeah.
So the girl that Quills tries to like hit on,
Yeah.
to get the plans, she's Ratcatcher.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. From
so-
Suicide Squad. Yep.
okay.
And I was like, because I was looking at her face, even though it was kind
Yeah,
of
it's
pink.
like, I know who that is.
I know who that is.
I know who that is. Yeah.
James Gunn's wife was also in that same part of the movie.
Yeah.
Playing the person that was, I guess, I forget exactly what she was doing. Like she was the intercom person. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
point is, she was
yeah.
there.
I saw that Linda Cardinelli was in there somewhere. I don't know which character though.
I don't know. She's not on my.
She
IMDb
played.
list.
She played. She played. Hawkeye's wife.
Oh yeah. I don't know. She's not on my list.
Yeah.
Like the main cast list. So I don't know who she
Yeah,
was.
but I saw it in the when the credits started. Actually, at the beginning of the movie, Linda Cardinelli. I'm like,
Oh,
she was gonna be in that.
Yeah.
Huh.
No, but yeah, lots of cameos. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So going down my list, what else do we got? Let's go ahead and talk about Adam Warlock.
I was waiting on this.
Oh, Will Poulter.
So I'm not sure how you guys felt about him in this movie. Actually, that was probably like the one demerit I have for this movie is that I kind of feel like he was a wasted character.
If you know Adam Warlock from the comics, he was.
Yes.
It's supposed to be slightly evil space Superman.
Yeah.
Not wholly evil,
He was Nuclear
slightly
Man.
evil.
He
Yeah.
was Nuclear Man.
And in the comics, he actually is. He at some points in the comic series, he is actually a member of the Guardians, and so actually like that mid-credit scene where it's showing him as
Yeah.
a new member. So
And that was fine.
if we do see more Guardians movies or whatever, I'm hoping he's
Fair
actually
chance. Yeah.
there. So maybe his character does become more significant. But for what we got in this movie, it felt like they were just throwing in a character just to have another character.
Yeah, especially
like,
the hype up to the movie, because
Yeah.
people were like, "Oh my god, he got so buff."
And like, he didn't really play. He had two significant moments, but I feel like these moments could have been replaced by something else. He was the reason that Rocket got injured, which is obviously the big plot of the movie, is that they're trying to rescue Rocket.
Mhm.
But I feel like that could have, anything else could have really hurt Rocket. It didn't have to be Adam Warlock.
Yeah, a box could have fallen on him.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, I would have kept that same story, but the way that he exited that whole scene, it just seemed like the way that they portrayed him in this movie was just like a 5-year-old mama's boy.
Yeah.
Yep.
In a
Which
grown man's body.
They did say that the High Evolutionary pulled him out of the cocoon before he was done cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It still makes me like,
Yeah. Which for the most part is actually from the comics, like loosely.
yeah. It's a very interesting interpretation.
Yeah,
but
I would have rather
incorrect.
that whole Rocket thing been more intentional.
Yeah.
Rather than sort of an accident.
And then the only other point where he really played a significant role was at the end where he saves Star-Lord. But even then, that could have just been written out and Star-Lord gets rescued by Groot, like Groot tried to do. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like he was kind of wasted. He could have been so much more, I think.
Yes.
But I don't know.
I think it's kind of like you said. I think it gives the Guardians franchise
Room to grow if there is.
room to grow if they want to keep it going.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, otherwise, he was a great guest appearance. And
My thoughts on that are, if you don't know the Adam Warlock story, it's fine.
yeah, if
Yeah.
you're
I
not super
think
familiar with it, it's fine.
if you knew about Adam Warlock and what his story is supposed to be, you probably were going to have an issue with the character in the movie.
Okay.
I wasn't like, I had an idea, but nothing. I didn't know the lore so much, so it actually didn't bother me that much.
Okay.
And another thing that kind of like took me out was Alicia, his mom. Was that her name?
Whose mom? Oh,
Warlock? Yeah.
Warlock's mom.
Yeah.
what was her name? I don't know.
Was it
I
Alicia?
know who you're talking about. The gold woman. Yep.
Yeah. Like, why was she in it?
Because she was in Guardians too.
Yeah, that was tying us back to the previous
Yeah, I
movie.
mean, yeah,
So,
we could have just said her name.
because that's actually the credits scene from Guardians 2 was her wanting to get revenge on the Guardians, and it was
Right.
introducing Adam Warlock for the first time.
I think it's kind of like you said. It's this entire subplot was a necessity to get the story moving and to wrap the story up.
Yeah.
In and of itself, it really wasn't that important. He was essentially the MacGuffin, and they brought along his mom to try to add a little depth so that you wouldn't notice that he was the MacGuffin.
True.
Like
Okay.
I think that's what it was. And if that's the weakest part of the movie, I think you're doing okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because it also didn't waste time on it.
True.
You know what I mean? Like I think he kind of knew it was there as a necessity. Yeah, he got it done and he let it move on. And that's fine. Whereas if we tried to turn this into like a huge 20-minute subplot, then I think it would have been a problem.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with it. It was okay.
Okay. So the story, the main driving point of the first half of the movie, if not a little bit longer, was them trying to rescue Rocket because he's been gravely injured. And so they finally get the code or whatever to unlock the kill switch that's been implanted in him to actually save his life. So in the moments where they're trying to save Rocket and everything, we're seeing Rocket in like this little dream sequence where he's talking with his friends that we saw die previously.
Lila, Floor, and Teeth.
Correct. And yeah, so that just by itself was heart-wrenching, like a lot of this movie has been with Rocket's backstory.
Yeah.
And Lila mentions to him as he's trying to go be with his friends, insinuating that he is ready to pass on. She stops him and says, "It's not your time yet. It's been your story all along." So taking us back to what Josh was saying, that confirms that Rocket's the surprise main character of these three movies.
I am the captain now.
So yeah, just that little confirmation and like him being told, like the underwriting of his character is how he's confident, but like it's a shy confidence because he's had such a tragic backstory. So like he's always felt insignificant. And so just that confirmation from someone that we know he loves, telling him he is the main character of his story. Like, that was just like, I just broke down.
Can we go back to that scene?
What scene?
When he's breaking them out.
Yeah. So a little bit further back from where we are talking about right now.
Yeah.
They're in the cages with his little friends.
It's Rocket's escape.
His little escape plan. But the first time we really see him
being Rocket,
being innovative, which is actually what makes him special. Like High Evolutionary was saying,
he can make all these things super smart,
but
they have no original thoughts.
Yes. And what sets Rocket apart is that he's innovative. He can create things that no one else has thought of before.
You can extrapolate and analyze.
Yes. And so we see him, he's been sneaking these little tools and stuff in all of his little meetings with High Evolutionary. And he finally puts everything together to make a little key card to unlock the cage. And what were you going to say about that scene?
I just want to say how
emotionally devastated you were.
Yeah. And on top of that, to make the High Evolutionary such an effective bad guy was once he shot her, she fell to the ground. Rocket is obviously devastated, and he just, you're crying. And I was like, oh, bro, let's fight right now.
And they did. They did.
I wanted to hit him. And it's kind of like in Game of Thrones with Joffrey. Like, everyone wanted to just whip Joffrey's butt.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go through that screen and be Rocket and hit that man. 'Cause I was like, wow, bro. That, for real?
Yeah. How often do you get a bad guy these days that actually emotionally upsets you?
Yeah.
So much that you want to go into the movie and throttle them yourself.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, like, for him to also turn around to see Teefs and what was the other one?
Floor.
Yeah,
Because
Floor.
she was laying on the floor.
Yeah.
Adorable.
So cute. Yep.
So, but yeah, like it.
Devastation. Yes.
Goodness gracious!
Yeah.
That almost felt like the when Peter was dissipating in Infinity War.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say this traumatized me way more than that did.
Yeah.
Because I knew Peter was coming back. The furry critters ain't coming back.
Oh yeah, they ain't coming back.
They ain't coming back.
But yeah, but the Peter thing reminded me of
To clarify, Peter Parker. Okay, because we also had the Peter Quill.
Yeah,
that was fine. I mean,
yeah. Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Spider-Man is disappearing, but the Spider-Man thing reminded me of Saving Private Ryan when the doctor or the medic got shot.
Yeah.
For that needless mission that they went on.
Yeah.
And he was going, I was like, bro, what is happening? Why are movies making me feel like this?
Those are the best movies, man.
But yeah, all those three together were like peak entertainment right there.
So there is something I want to eat crow on. Because I feel like it's been aimed by Hollywood directly at me. Because I said I never wanted to see another one shot.
So that was my
ever
next point.
again.
Yep.
And we've gotten now at least 2 amazing one shots so far this year. First being D&D, which went on like a hair too long. But
John Wick as well.
Oh yeah, and then John Wick. Okay, so we've gotten 3 so far. All right, so I'm eating it again. This was one of the best one shots I have seen in a super long time.
And it wasn't just a one shot; it was a hallway fight.
Yeah, a hallway fight one shot.
Are you talking about when? I'm trying to remember when that was.
When they're all trying to get off the
team's really together for the first time since saving Rocket, and they're in the hallway and defeating all the bad guys.
Yeah, and they're working together as a team.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
That was a one shot.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me. It kind of reminded me of that scene in Kingsman.
Yeah, same vibe.
It reminded me of the hallway scene from Daredevil, the Netflix series.
Yeah.
But it was a one shot that did not feel like the same one shot I've seen a million times. It made me go, how did they do that?
Yeah.
And at the same time, it never distracted me from the movie. That's a hard balance to strike.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really even think about how it was a one shot until the end of the one shot. And I was just kind of like, oh man.
And kind of going back to what we were saying before, that scene by itself was kind of straddling the PG-13R line.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
there's some pretty
Like,
graphic death
it's-
scenes.
Yeah, like they got away with it because it was obviously cartoonish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Not
it's-
human.
Yeah, non-human.
Yeah.
And like we said before, you can get away with a lot if it's not humans. Which goes back to my argument of how you can make not Daredevil, Punisher work in the MCU.
Right.
You can get away with a lot if it's not a human.
Right, which is also going to go over very well whenever aliens make contact with us.
Yeah.
Because, and they're just cannon fodder in our movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my last big takeaway.
All right.
Was the one shot in the hallway.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. This getting towards the end of my list. So obviously the scene where Rocket is rescuing all the animals, that was heart-wrenching because like he couldn't do it by himself, and then they came to his rescue and helped him get all the animals off the ship. I thought that was great.
And nearly lost Quill in the process.
Yes. So I definitely thought they were killing Star-Lord right there.
Oh,
His face got
Like once his face blew up, I was like, "Oh my god,
This is it!"
Yeah.
They killed him, but also they just kept going with it. I thought that was the end.
We
for
did
him.
skate past an important part where Rocket sees and acknowledges that he is a raccoon.
Yes,
yes.
Right.
which I didn't really think. I thought, I never thought he didn't think he was a raccoon. I just thought he didn't like being called one.
No, I think he legitimately thought he was not a raccoon.
Yeah.
Because he was so
until that
beat up on
point,
maybe that he was a monster.
I thought he was just some raccoon-looking alien. I think we all thought that.
Oh, yeah.
So, but having him say his full title, Rocket Raccoon,
Yeah, they finally said his full name,
that was pretty cool.
and they killed the crap out of the High Evolutionary. As a
Yeah,
team.
they did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Peeled his face off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you. You. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, because I was
Like
watching
that.
those little clips the entire movie, and then
Yeah.
when it got to the end, one of them was like hanging off. I was like, ooh.
But no, like they went harder than the Dark Knight went with Two-Face. Like that was disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Which
that
again,
was-
pushing that PG-13.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't that PG-13 you take your 8-year-old to.
I wish there was a lot of 8-year-olds in our movie.
kind of in that same vein as
Especially
Doctor
for, like-
Strange.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
pushing it.
Yeah.
It was pushing it.
All right, so let's wrap this up by talking about all of the closed doors and slightly left open doors. So we find out after Star-Lord, is rescued, that he is ready to call it quits because he wants to go back home to Earth and reunite with his long lost grandfather.
Wants to learn to swim.
So I honestly did not really see that coming. I kind of thought he was going to be one of the characters that kept things together. Like I thought by the end of this movie, if no one died, I thought it was going to end up being Star-Lord, Rocket, and Groot that
Plus
kept
whoever.
the team going.
Yeah.
I didn't expect Star-Lord to be the one to actually initiate the breaking up of the team.
Yeah.
But it played out really well because it really closed that thread that kicked off all these movies of him being taken away from his family.
Mhm.
So that was a little bit of a heartstring right there. And then we saw that Mantis was ready to leave as well. And we saw Drax say goodbye to her.
I love that she took her aliens with her.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
So I know I mentioned Adam Warlock was like my one con for this movie, but also the fact that I didn't get to see Drax give Mantis a hug while she was leaving, that hurt.
They had a moment though.
They did. But I just wanted them to embrace. Like, I just needed that closure.
Sorry, bro.
It's fine.
On that point, Star-Lord and Gamora did not get back together.
That was the
Yeah.
twist I did not see coming, but I loved it so much more.
Correct.
Because like
Yep.
the writing was on the wall that this was all leading to them, like her discovering that they were meant to each other. They were meant for each other. And we even kind of saw them tease like, oh yeah, we probably would have
They thought about it.
together.
There were
They
some
thought
eyes
about it.
there.
They thought about it.
But then James Gunn didn't follow through. And that made it so much better.
Yep.
And I hated it, but it made it so much better.
Yeah.
It was a good call.
Yeah.
It was
like
a really
we
good call.
Yeah. And then we saw Nebula filling a role that we didn't think she was ever going to have.
A very maternal.
Yeah.
role. Yeah.
And like, that's the character arc thing I was talking about. Like, she might have the best character arc
She's
amongst.
got one of those low key arcs. You don't notice it while it's happening.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
when we first see her in the MCU all those years ago, she just wanted to kill her sister and kill everything in her way. And then she slowly evolves to like kind of being okay with her sister. And then she kind of becomes a good guy and like actually helps them stop Thanos in Endgame. And now she's like a full member of the Guardians and like is a hero and now wanting to maintain the planet Nowhere.
Governor Nebula.
Yeah.
Governess? Nebula?
Sure.
Governess. I mean, is she really a she?
Yes.
Clearly feminine.
She's sisters.
A
with
fembot.
So her role has become more defined and less nebulous.
There it is.
Almost made it a whole episode.
And then, like we talked about a little bit already, Drax. They said, Drax, you're not a destroyer. Your real role is being a father. It's like he stayed behind on Nowhere with Nebula to kind of fill the father role of all those orphans that they rescued on the ship, which was, I guess, not really something I saw coming, but it was perfect.
It was satisfying.
Yeah.
With another joke that landed, you're just like, why did you tell us that you knew their language? Did you ask?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
That was great.
Very much a Jax thing to say.
Then the movie ends with us seeing Quill back on Earth, reuniting with his long-lost grandfather, which was also heart-wrenching.
Mm.
The back of the paper. Kevin Bacon tells all.
So that's actually getting us into our mid-credits scene. So we actually, I guess that's the post-credits scene. The mid-credits scene is us seeing Rocket leading the new team of Guardians. So it's Rocket, Groot, Adam Warlock. Who else was there?
Cosmo. And the one of the girls.
Yes.
Oh, and don't forget old James Gunn's brother.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Crackle.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Could not remember his name.
So maybe a little tease of a future team that we might see.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think that was the point. It wasn't necessarily to say, this is what you're getting next. It was, hey, this is not necessarily the end of the Guardians.
Just the Guardians as we know it.
Yeah. Your Guardians
Yeah.
are split.
There is a possibility that this can go on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, if this was the last time we ever saw any of these people, I'm good.
Well, then we had the post-credit scene, which starts off just being a little like throwaway scene where Star-Lord and his grandpa are at the dinner table and he's reading the newspaper that Jason was mentioning where it shows like Kevin Bacon
Talks about his abduction.
Yeah.
Which is from the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Holiday special. Yeah. It's a little Easter egg there.
Which I hated.
And then Star-Lord's just randomly talking about mowing someone's grass and everything, like a little throwaway conversation. But then it cuts to a white screen where it says Star-Lord will return.
Yep.
So
which was not expected.
That was not expected at all.
Yeah.
So we're at least going to see Chris Pratt back. I'm assuming he would be the one playing Star-Lord, unless there's another Star-Lord out there.
Multiverse.
But yeah. So at least I for sure thought he was done, at least. But I'm glad that he's going to be back.
Nah, Jurassic Park wrapped up. He needs a steady paycheck.
So yeah, that is all of my bullet points. That's probably the longest breakdown of a movie we've had, but worth it.
It was
How many
great.
times has I been this excited about a movie, though?
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting to be. Like, I was like, this will probably be good.
I knew it was going to be good. I knew.
Yeah, it had to be good. Because the previous two were just spot on. Like, I downloaded so much music from these past movies.
Let's talk about the music. James Gunn coming through with the hot takes. Jason didn't like it. Okay. All right.
They were okay. I mean, they fit. But I didn't recognize them like I recognized the other soundtracks.
That's true.
I liked that pretty much all of it was diegetic.
What?
That means
digestible.
No. Means that it was music in the movie.
Mm.
Like it was not just a soundtrack.
Right.
Whenever you heard music, someone was hearing that music somewhere in the movie.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying.
So it was either in headphones, over a loudspeaker, something like that. It was never just a rock anthem for the sake of a rock anthem.
And it almost
was-
felt like each song that was playing, like it was intentionally for the character that you saw on screen. Because in the beginning, you had Creep, and if you really listen to the lyrics, it's kind of describing Rocket.
Yeah,
like he's kind of a loner,
an acoustic creep.
Yeah, yeah, really, real soft acoustic creep. He's kind of a loner, things like that. And then I forget one of the other. I think the one significant one was one that Quill was listening to. I forget the name of the song. But if you really think about it, I feel like they correlated with the character very well.
I'm sure Gunn didn't just randomly choose songs that sounded cool.
Oh, yeah.
Put the old iPod on shuffle.
Like, Gunn has a reputation now for picking out perfect music.
Yeah.
Like, the Guardians movie specifically, like, there's entire playlist of every single song he had picked out for these movies. You can find it on, like, iTunes. He has, like, the entire Zune of songs that Star-Lord has. He's made a playlist on iTunes that you can go find and listen to.
No, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, I have it. It's like hundreds of songs. And then obviously for Peacemaker, he picked out the perfect music for that.
Yeah.
So like he's kind of slowly had a reputation for picking out perfect music to fit the scene. So I'm sure for all those things that you're talking about, he picked out character.
It's very
meticulous.
Yeah. But yeah. That wraps up this. So let's score it.
The hour-long review of...
You guys don't give this the scores that I think you should. I quit. So I'm going to kick things off. 5 out of 5. Who's going next? Christian.
This movie hit me in the places that needed to at the right time, very effectively. It's getting a 5 out of 5.
Yeah. All right. Josh.
5 pocket-sized mammals out of 5.
Oh.
And I saved Jason for last because I just never know what he's going to score something. So, Jason.
Well, flat. 2 out of 5.
Right. In my defense, I did point out some things that detracted from the movie from me.
But were they enough?
No, they weren't. 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
See, I never know, though. I never know if Jason's just been bullied into giving a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
These are not the only friends I got.
I mean, we'll take it, though.
Yeah.
All right.
Please don't hurt me.
So that makes it official. Eat Sleep Nerd is giving Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 a 5 out of 5. It is the perfect MCU movie. The best one we've had in years.
Because it didn't worry so much about being... Because it didn't worry about being in the MCU so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It was its own story.
They just let the dude make his movie.
Yeah.
And he did that.
Yeah, he kind of had that checkout mentality anyway. He's like, I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
I put in my
Here's
2 weeks
this
notice.
goal
I'm going to go
for
to this
you.
other job.
That's
at
actually
DC.
kind of the sad thing is that this means we're probably not going to get another Marvel movie from James Gunn, which is something he does really well. So,
True.
yeah.
Maybe
But
it's
again-
DC's turn.
If
Maybe.
he can make Superman feel this good, we're going to be all right.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm going to be hella upset if Superman doesn't feel good. Like, hold on. You can make me feel all jacked up on a raccoon, but you couldn't do it about Superman?
Yeah.
So he has
Superman.
set his own bar high here.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
All right. If you stuck with us through this entire episode,
It's 2 hour
We
episode.
should be paying you.
You don't get anything in return other than our, thanks.
thanks. So, make sure you come back for episode number 57, coming out next week, as always, on Tuesdays. If you're listening on podcasts, make sure you go follow us on YouTube. If you have not checked us out there yet, you can watch us as well as listen to us. YouTube.com/@EatSleepNerd. When you get there, click the subscribe button, click the like button, click the bell button, leave some comments, and share.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Share the love.
That's like the biggest thing. Share.
Share.
Yeah, you can ignore all the other stuff he said. Just share.
Share.
Maybe. Okay.
I'm just saying you gave him like 87 things to do.
I'm just saying, if you see like 100,000 shares with like 7 likes, it's got to be good still.
Or it's such a dumpster fire.
You got to check this out.
Yeah.
All right, and then we don't have much to review until June. The rest of May is pretty light in terms of things to watch and play, but June's going to be stacked. We have Indiana Jones, we have The Flash, we have
Was it Oppenheimer?
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, we have a bunch of stuff. So,
Yeah.
Oppenheimer's July.
Oppenheimer's in July. Bunch of stuff in July as well. Mission Impossible.
Ooh.
Bunch of stuff. So, be on the lookout for that. But the next few weeks, we're just going to coast. We'll see what happens. So, in the meantime, Jason, what should nerds be doing?
They should eat, sleep, nerd.
Take it easy, people.